It's a great honor and a privilege to introduce Felicia Galp.
Yes.
And Felicia, we're here in Joburg.
Yes.
And you were born in Romania.
Yes.
What year were you born in Romania?
1930. Although a lady, don't ask a lady her age,
I know.
but I will tell you anyway. I was born in 1930, and
do you know which part of Romania? Which town?
yes, of course, in Bucharest.
In Bucharest,
yes.
in the capital.
My father had been born in London because his parents had taken a trip as newlyweds, and they went to London to try and see what life was there like. And he was born they lived there for about 3-4 years or 5, and decided to come back to Romania. During that time, my father was born in London. So they decided to come back to Romania, and my father was now a British subject, having been born in London, but he was only about 3. And my grandmother didn't speak English, but the few years that she'd been there, when she got back to Romania, and her friends and family came round and they said to her, well, so do you speak English? And she said, yes, of course. So they said to her, well, how do you say apples? She said apples. And how do you say water? She said water. And how do you say bread? She said, there's no bread in London. She didn't know how to say bread. So there's no bread in London. So this is where I come from, Romania. My father was one of 6 children. He was the only one born in London because his parents came back to Romania to live, and the rest of his siblings were born in Romania. So when
and your mother's family, where did they come from?
My mother's family came from Moldavia in Romania. And when my father kept his British passport intact, and he had my mother put on it, and he had me put on it. He was a friend of the ambassador, and he used to take me every year by the hand. He used to get the stamp for another year, and he paid taxes because he was an alien. And when the war came, by this time, year after year, they got to know him and they got to know me. He used to take me by the hand. And eventually when war broke out, and the British consul said to him, look, we are breaking off relationships. They said to my dad, first of all, you should think of selling up and getting out of here.
The British told him?
Yes. So my dad said, well, I have to speak to my wife. So he spoke to his wife, and the wife said, well, no, we've got factories, property, no, and nothing will happen, there won't be a war. Well, she was wrong. And when war broke out, the consul phoned my dad and he said, listen, we're chartering a plane, we're flying out tonight, there's place for you 3. To my dad, for you, your wife and your child. Come with us. And he said, no, we wouldn't know where to go. We're leaving everything behind. And they didn't go. They didn't.
How old were you at this time?
19. And
can I just ask, Felicia, do you remember growing up in the neighborhood where you were?
Not really. It was. I do remember, but it's like a veil, like something that's got a veil over it. You know, very.
Were your family religious?
Yeah.
Observant?
Very religious. What?
They were religious. They were very observant.
No, not very. Secular.
But would you go to shul on Yom Kippur or Pesach?
Yes, my parents went on Yom Kippur and they fasted.
And Shabbat, did you have Shabbat candles?
And my mother used to light Shabbos candles. And
Did you go to Jewish school? Did you go to Jewish school?
No.
And did you have Jewish friends or mainly?
I had Jewish and non-Jewish friends.
And did you ever experience anti-Semitism growing up? Do you remember any?
No. But when I was 9 or 10, the British consul said to my dad, "Look, you are British, but you're also Jewish. We know you've got a little girl. Take her and go. Go across the sea to Turkey. To Turkey, it's overnight from the Romanian port to Istanbul. It's just overnight." And he said, "At least you'll get away from here." So we went over to Turkey, and he said, "You can wait it out there. This will all blow over, and it'll be fine."
Do you remember this?
Huh?
Do you remember going?
Yes, I
Yes, you
remember
remember.
going. Yes, I was 9, almost 10.
And
10.
was this the very first time you were going on a boat?
No, I had been on a boat before when I was a little baby, but apparently it was one of the British big vessels, the Queen something or another, and I was 3 years old.
Maybe the Queen Mary?
And I can't remember a thing, but I do know from my parents that my dad was holding me, and on the deck they had all the officers lined up, you know, in white and everything, and it just shows you how one doesn't know what follows. And all these officers were lined up for visitors to come and visit, and they had a card to come and visit. So my dad was holding me, and we got on the thing, and one of these officers, as we passed, and I looked at them, and he said, "Hello, sweetie," or something like that. And I saw this black face, and I burst out crying that nothing would settle me at all. My parents were so embarrassed. I had never seen a black face in my life, and they were so embarrassed. Anyway, one doesn't know what's behind, and that I'll end up in a place with all the... Anyway.
In South Africa, yeah.
Yeah. So that was that. We went, we were in Romania, and my dad had a friend who, you know, Romania was famous with the British for petroleum. Mm-hmm. It had petroleum reserves, and they used to get the petroleum from there. And then there was a furor that the Jews should try and get away. And his one friend was not Jewish. He was an Englishman, and his wife, they had no children. And we went to say goodbye to them, with me in tow. And they said, "Look, you don't know where you're heading. You don't know where you're going. Yes, you're going to Turkey, and then you don't know where you're heading." They were enormously rich, and they had no children. And they said to my parents, "Why don't you leave her here with us? We will look after her, and you go, and when you're finished, you'll come and fetch her. And they said, no way. And we 3 of us went to Turkey.
Were you the only child?
Yeah.
And what about your grandparents or
No, they
uncles and
remained
aunts?
in Romania.
They remained.
Yeah, and eventually, in due course, they emigrated to Israel. Years later, after the war, after 1945. And my grandmother's buried in Haifa. I was just a few weeks too late to still catch her alive. And that's it.
And do you remember going to Turkey, to Istanbul?
Oh, yes, yes. And I remember the catacombs. And
wait, was this, had the war already started? Had the war broken
yes,
out
and
already?
then from there,
So
we decided
about 1940?
we decided to go to Palestine.
But how long did you stay in Istanbul?
Oh, about 3 or 4 months,
Only 3 or 4 months?
hoping that the war would be finished in that time. Because my father said, well, look, this will take a few months and it'll be over.
And what happened to your home in Bucharest? Did they
Nothing.
manage
We just left it to neighbors who said that they would sell it.
And you came to
And my
Istanbul?
dad had a false bottom made to his suitcase. And in there he put jewelry, money, as well as my mother's silver candlesticks in that false bottom. And we took just that one suitcase. And we got to Palestine.
Can I just ask, when you were in Istanbul,
Yes.
do you remember being in Istanbul? Do you remember those 3, 4 months?
Vaguely, I do.
Did you stay in the Jewish area?
No, in a hotel.
In a hotel, wow.
Yeah.
Because there is a Jewish community in Istanbul.
First of all, that didn't know the language or anything. And my father spoke a bit of German because his mother had been born in Vienna. And she used to read German books with all these cute letters, you know, the Gothic sort of. Yeah, I remember used to see her reading these books. And
you went to Istanbul when the war had already started?
yes,
So it's about 1940,
41.
41.
Yeah, June 41.
June 41. And you stayed there for about
In the middle of the
Wow, you stayed for 3, 4 months in...
And from Istanbul, we were going to Palestine, heading for Palestine. So we went to Palestine, and there was this whole row of colonels and generals and all of these people, you know, in khaki with medallions, and they opened up his passport and my mother and I, and they said to him, yes, you're British, but you're also Jewish. So there's no point in you coming here. We expect a lot of trouble here. This is 1941, June 1941. They said, you've got a child. We expect a lot of trouble. This is not a place for you. So my father said, so what do you want me to do? Yes, I'm British, yes, I'm Jewish. So they said, look, not too far away is Cairo. Go to Egypt and go to a hotel and wait in Egypt until things quieten down here and you'll be able to come. Everybody thought that things would quieten down, that would blow over. So we did. So we went to Cairo, and we stayed in Cairo for about, I don't know, 5, 6 months.
Where did you stay in Cairo?
At a hotel. Hotel, something with an M.
And was this a big adventure for you? Or
Yes, but I wasn't really, I was a girl, I was interested in my dolls and things. I mean, that didn't really inconvenience me too much. I lived a life of luxury, of being spoilt, of everything of the best, and no, it didn't really affect me because I didn't suffer anything.
what did your parents do when they were in Cairo for these few months?
Nothing.
Nothing.
They lived on what they sold of their stuff.
Did they become part of the community? Because it was
No, we stayed in a hotel.
Was it in downtown Cairo, or do you remember where? Well, you wouldn't remember where, but do you have any idea where it was in Cairo?
No. I do remember going to a cinema with my parents, and for the first time I saw it was an open air cinema, and it was open to the skies, and it was all starlight, the sky and starlight. I had never been to a closed, cinemas. I went to St. Shirley Temple, but this was really amazing. But also I remember having a few episodes with bombings.
You remember?
Over Cairo. I only remember the sirens and the searchlights in the sky. They showed us where there was a trench hiding place, and I remember those searchlights in the air, where you see them looking for the planes. When you go to movies today, the 20th Century Fox have got those.
That's right.
And that is what reminds me every time.
Sure.
Every time they were, all these searchlights.
Sure.
But nothing happened to us. We were fine. And eventually, my dad said, look, it was Farouk and all that. So my father said, look, I've been thinking. My father lived with a radio tied, glued to his ear. And so he knew what was going on. And he said, I've thought about this. He said to my mom and I've thought about it carefully, and I've decided that they are trying to bomb here. They will eventually succeed. Every single place, every single country is on fire, except for one, and that is India. So he said, we'll go to India and we'll wait there. And we boarded a ship in
Cairo?
My memory. Not Dar es Salaam.
Was it part of Egypt?
Yes.
Port Said?
In?
Port Said?
Port Said. In Port Said, we got on a ship. There were only the three of us, and we were the only Jews, the only Romanians, so I couldn't speak a word of English, nor could my parents. But fortunately, the language, the Romanian language, is what most people think a Slav language deriving from Russian and what. It's not. It's a Latin tongue. It's got a Latin root. So it is very, very similar to Italian. It's almost like sister languages.
Italian.
And we got on the ship and sailing for India, for Bombay then. And on the ship was an Italian family. They were also running away from the war. And there were two little sisters about my age. And so, you know, children get to converse with one another, to talk. And I spoke Romanian and they spoke Italian, and we were great mates. You know, we were, you know, right. So I picked up a lot of Italian. I love languages. And to this day, I mean, I pick up languages very easily. I've got a good ear for languages. So I made friends with these two little girls, and we went to India. And in India, there was my parents were hung up on one thing. They had just me, an only child. Not a spoiled brat, but certainly used to luxurious living and used to the best. We got to India and they wanted to find out where is the best education. Number one, I didn't speak any other language. All I knew was I used to listen to the crew down in the ship singing, and they used to sing, "You are my sunshine, my only sunshine." That's all I knew. So they said, well, the best education that you will get is in a convent. St. Francis Convent in Bombay, and that is the best education you're going to get. So they took me to the convent, my parents, and my mother said, now listen, you are going to this convent because this is the best education that is available. And you must have that. And so we're sending you to the convent, but you must remember that you are a Jewish little girl. So I said, okay. So they took me to the convent, and I sat down, and then came this long pillar dressed in black. She was a tall woman, the Mother Superior, and she was dressed in this black cassock, you know. And she came to me and she said, well, so you are the new girl? And I was shivering, and I said, yes. She says, well, I want you in the hall at Mass at 6 o'clock tomorrow morning at Mass.
Did you understand any English at this time?
Yeah, by this time I did.
Okay.
So I said, I'm sorry, I said, but I can't do that. She says, why not? I said, because I'm a Jewish little girl. So she said to me, that doesn't matter. You can come to Mass in the hall and you can pray to your God. So I said, okay. Eventually, she turned out to be wonderful to me. she saw me through my whole education. It all came by ship from Cambridge. I did a Cambridge matric, but it all came by sea. And she was wonderful to me. She pushed me up classes, like made me skip standard 4 to 5, so that I could be finished with my education before we had to leave. And she was very, very good to me. And she called my parents and she said, I want you to get me some vitamins. She's doing very hard, working hard. And I skipped standard 4 and I skipped standard 7. And eventually I did the matric and I was leaving.
Can I just ask, did you make friends at the convent?
Oh, yes.
And were you the only Jewish girl in the convent?
Yes.
Yeah. And being Jewish, did your friends know you were Jewish?
No, yes.
And it wasn't an issue?
No, there was no mention of it.
Were most of the girls British
You know
girls?
what? In the convent, I remember one day we were all walking in like a clique, all of us, all these girls. And I knew of all their holidays and everything. They have Lent, 40 days of Lent, when they're not allowed to eat sweets. And all along, we're walking along, I don't remember where we were going. Hello?
Felicia, so you're in the convent and
Yeah.
you were the group of girls?
Yes. And we were walking and, apparently it was Lent, 40 days of Lent. And the girls had a packet of sweets, and they all had, and they said, we shouldn't have the sweets. Anyway, they went along to their nun and whatever it was. Anyway, came to Pesach, and we were all walking again. All of us were friends. There was no... And they were offering sweets around, and I took one, and I'm busy sucking it. And I said, oh my God, it was Pesach. I'm not supposed to have that. So they said, well, don't worry, you remember it happened to us. So that's how we...
Were they mainly British girls?
No,
were they any Indian girls?
No, they were Italian, from Italy. They were from Lebanon, and they were from Greece. That's how I learned how to speak Greek.
And were there any Indian girls?
Any?
Indian girls? From Bombay?
I had one friend only who was with me in class. Only one Indian friend. Her mother was a movie star, one of the,
Wow.
and she used to wear these saris that were so beautifully edged, and she was gorgeous. I remember I used to gaze at her. Her husband was a British judge. He was a judge, and he was there in Bombay.
That was her parents?
Yes, her parents. She was an only child.
And let me ask, what did your parents do at this time? Like, what was your father? Was he working, your father or your mother?
No, he couldn't work.
So how did they afford to pay for the education?
They had what he had
they
in
took from Romania?
Yeah.
So what did he do the whole day?
He was British. He was considered hands-off. He couldn't work. He was like, he had to depend on what he had.
And your mother, what did she do?
No, nothing. No, we had a lovely home, and...
Did you stay at home or did you stay in the convent?
Me?
Yeah.
No, I stayed at home.
And you would go to school every day?
Yes.
It wasn't far from your home?
No.
And Bombay at this time, did you get to see the city? Did you feel part of India? Did you
Yeah,
feel...
but what can you see in the city? You go into the Jutka, those things, and you stay crossly, to fit in to those things. And you go into town and you've got a crossing, and there's the cows with the bell ringing, and there's the donkey pulling a cart, and there's a car hooting, and oh my God, one avoids it. Even now, I believe people...
Did you learn any of the Indian dialects?
No, I didn't. I was busy learning English.
And how long did you stay in India?
7 years.
7 years.
While the war lasted.
And then when the war finished in 45?
When the war finished, we had our suitcases all labelled to go to London. And they were all labelled for London. And they had friends who were living here. And this was 1947.
Living here in South Africa?
Yes. Just after Gandhi was assassinated, that my father said, right, this is the time we go. This is no place for us anymore. And there's going to be big trouble. He was right.
Because then they had the war with Pakistan and the separation of India.
Once they assassinated Gandhi. And I remember seeing it on the Gaumont British News. Da 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 da. You know that one. And I remember seeing this in the movies, in the news.
These were the newsreels.
Yes.
Yeah.
He was on like a board, and the fire underneath, and all the yellow magnolias, all the yellow little flowers that they wear, and all of that, and they set it alight.
Because it's like a type of cremation.
Yes, yes.
And can I just ask, Felicia, when the war ended, were you in touch with your family from Romania? Did your parents manage to make contact?
Only through the Red Cross. They used to buy, it was called air letters. They were blue, pale blue, and you could only really write on one page. And there was the address of the...
I remember the air letters.
Do you?
Yeah.
And it was through the Red Cross that they could establish some kind of contact, which they did, and most of the family got out into Palestine.
And let me just ask, because now you were a bit older, did you know what was going on during the war, what was happening to the Jews in Europe?
Yes, I did know, but...
Did you know the horrors, what was happening?
Not exactly.
The gas
not
chambers
exactly.
and the crematoriums?
I didn't know about Anne Frank and all that. I think that my parents shielded me from some of that.
Do you think your parents knew?
Oh yes. My father had
He was listening to the
radio glued to his ear. Wow. Oh yes, and that's how he knew when we should pack up and leave.
So your family that remained in Romania,
yes,
a lot, thank God, survived?
Some died. My grandparents. My parents' parents died.
In the Shoah?
In Romania. No.
They just died of old age?
Yeah. And my one grandmother made it to Israel with the refugees. She was a real, stunner. She was a get up and go thing. And she made it to Israel, and she used to send us these air letters, the blue ones, we used to send her pictures, and she used to say, "Send me pictures because you are my paper children. You're my children made of paper." And she was in Israel. She was 81 when she passed on, and she's buried in Haifa. And she wanted very much to see me. I was here, and I was a young mother with 2 little girls who were there.
And Felicia, let me ask, did you...
This is my granddaughter. Come in, Barbie. Come in.
Hello. Felicia, when you went...
Are you? Yes. Are you very kosher?
Yeah, thank God.
Oh, you are.
But it doesn't matter. But Felicia, can I just ask?
Barbie.
Hello?
Do me a favor, doll.
No, I'm good.
You're very
Don't worry.
kosher.
I'm fine.
Please bring me some
It's
ice
fine.
water.
Yeah, ice, okay.
Thank you.
Felicia, after the war finished, your parents decided then to come to South Africa instead of going to England?
After the war finished, when the war finished, we were all ready to go to London. Everything was, and they had friends that they were in correspondence with.
And they lived in South Africa?
Who lived in South Africa.
Okay.
And they said, okay, we said to them, no, we're going to London. And they said, look, you can go to London afterwards, but come and have a holiday. And we came to have a holiday and then go to London.
So you came to South Africa?
To South Africa. And were you in South Africa all this time? Or did you leave? Is there an interim when you left?
I've been in Israel 26 years.
Oh, I see.
But I've come
Well,
back
when
here.
we arrived by ship. It took 15 days.
Wow, this was from Bombay to...
From Bombay
And
to Durban.
To Durban, wow.
It took 15 days. And on the way, you could see spikes of that was struck. What do you call the underwater? Where they attack with under the water, where they attack ships.
Torpedoes?
Not torpedoes, there's a word for it. Anyway, you could see spikes of those things that had been shot down from the deck of the ship as we were going through.
And how old were you when you left India to come to South Africa?
17.
17 already.
Yeah. So,
were you excited to leave India, or were you happy to be leaving India?
well, in the sense that I was 17 and I knew there was a world out there and I wanted to see it and live it.
Yeah.
I was a great cinema fan. My mother used to say, just give her cinema and bread and water. That's all she needs. That's all.
So you came to Joburg, and you came to Durban first.
We came to Durban. The boat sailed to Durban. And as we got out of the ship, my father was an addict for newspapers because he had to know what's going on. And I remember there was a newspaper boy selling news, and these huge, big, black headlines. Girl murdered. Girl murdered. murderers unknown, in big black. And I saw this and I thought, my God, where have we come? And you know what that was? You remember the Schroeder girl?
Oh, that's right.
You remember? What was her name? Maureen Schroeder.
It was a mystery what happened there.
Schroeder, with the 3 Jewish boys.
Yeah.
There was Polyak, and
Sure.
there was Liebman, who was studying to be a doctor, and Polyak, whose parents had the piano empire. Thank you very much. Thank you. The piano emporium. Polyak and Liebman, who was in his final year doctorate. Liebman, Morris, what's it? The paint people.
So when you saw this big newspaper headline,
can you imagine? It put the fear of God into me, and I thought, oh my God, anyway. So it appeared that, first of all, I needed to find a job. And I went to the Zionist Federation.
But did you stay in Durban or did you come to Joburg?
Joburg.
So from Durban, did you stay overnight?
In Joburg.
You came straight to Joburg from Durban?
My parents' friends were here.
Oh, okay.
They were from Joburg.
And where in Joburg? Do you remember which suburb you came to?
Yes. Near Crystal. You remember Crystal?
In Domfontein?
Yes. And the place was Gold Bank Mansions. And what happened? I went to the Zionist Fair.
Mm-hmm.
I got a job there.
At the Zionist Fair?
Yes, I saw Dr. Abramson.
Wow.
I had nothing. I had just finished matric. So he said to me, he says, I see. I went to interview him. So he said to me, I see. I've got a long beard and you want to learn cutting it on me. You want to practice on me. So I said, okay, something like that. And I was with the Zionist Fed for 7 years. I worked with Gert Diamond.
So you were there with the establishment of the State of Israel?
When?
When the state was established in 48? In 1948?
Yes.
So you had interesting times.
Yes.
And
yes.
The chief rabbi was Rabinovitz?
Yes. Chief
Louis
Rabbi
Rabinovitz?
Dr. Louis Rabinovitz. He was the
And you
chief.
remember him?
Of course I do. Because my husband, in due course, after I got married.
When did you get married?
1952.
And how old were you when you got married?
21, 22.
And where did your husband come from? Was he South African?
South Africa. He was born in Krugersdorp.
And his parents came most probably from Lithuania?
I think Vilna.
Vilna, yeah. Because most South African Jews come from Lithuania. Latvia, Lithuania.
So, would you excuse me for a few minutes?
Felicia, so you got married, and thank God you've got 2 daughters.
Yes.
And you've just
Baruch
got
Hashem.
and grandchildren.
Yes, Baruch Hashem. Also, 4.
4. And great-grandchildren.
Great-grandchildren, I've now got 1 that's just come to light.
And when was your great-grandchild born? You just heard the news
last night at 3 o'clock
Mazel
last
tov,
night.
and she was born in Israel.
Yes.
Oh, that's
She
wonderful.
was.
So you've got
And this
family
is
in
why
Israel.
I'm walking on clouds today.
That's wonderful. So you've got family living in Israel as well.
Just my granddaughter is married in Israel, and she lives here in this place that you just read about.
It's wonderful.
Yeah, she's married to an Israeli, originally born in America.
Wow. And Felicia, can I ask you, because you know, what advice would you give people? You know, hearing your story, your father was so insightful, and
Yes,
he took the advice and he thought what to do for the future, and he didn't.
Yes.
He was a man of action, and that saved your lives in a
Well,
way.
you know, it was the time. It was the sign of the times. There was a war going on. There was Berlin burning. There was all these things that were going on.
And
People had to live and with the eyes wide open and think what to do
but
and
there were a
where to move.
lot of people that didn't want to leave or thought it would just blow over. Like,
You had to fight to live.
and Felicia, what advice would you give your grandchildren and the next generation? What advice would you give? Having lived, I mean, you've been through amazing times, and you've seen miracles. And
I hoped all my life that this, having been uprooted and traveled the whole world just about, and I lived in luxury. The war didn't affect me in any way, except that I would have hoped later on with more vision, and that the reason was the anti-Semitism to start with, the groundwork, and I had hoped that with me having experienced all this, that my following generations would be spared from all this. But it didn't work out that way, because my grandchildren are doing their best to leave and run off to Israel.
but at least there's a home they can run to.
Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem.
Yeah.
Baruch Hashem. Wow. So Felicia, I just want to thank you personally. It's been So Felicia, I want to thank you so much for giving me your valuable time and for hearing your story. It's been such an honor and a privilege, and you are an inspiration for us. Really, you are so
Not
positive.
really.
You smile,
Not
and
really.
you've gone through so much in your life. And look, you're so positive, and you are.
Not really. I didn't
really
go
is.
through any hardship. I didn't
But
go
still,
through.
Felicia, you didn't have it easy. You didn't have it plain sailing, even though you went to many countries.
Yes, but I didn't go through any hardship. Baruch Hashem, I lived through luxury to good times. I didn't go to any hardship. Hashem spared me from all
Thank
that.
God. Thank God. But your
And
story
this is what I say. Hashem has spared me from a lot of hard things in my life, like cancer, like all sorts
Thank
of
God.
things.
Thank God.
Yes, thank God.
Well,
So, I stand here today and I can only say, Baruch Hashem.
wonderful. And may Vesri until 120 in
Thank
good health, mazel
you.
and bracha.
Thank you. And you.
mazel tov for your
Thank
great
you.
granddaughter.
That is the most precious.
It's wonderful.
That is the most precious gift. Baruch Hashem.
Well, it's so wonderful that
Yes.
it was last night that she was born.
Yes, yes.
Oy, mazel tov, mazel tov.
Thank you so much.